hearty welcome to Grandma's Wealth Wisdom with your hospitable hosts, Brandon and Amanda Neely. This is the only podcast for strategies to grow your wealth simply and sustainably, like Grandma used to. Without further ado, here are your hosts.
Hi, I'm Amanda, and welcome to Grandma's Wealth Wisdom, where we help you build wealth Grandma would be proud of. This is episode 6 that we've titled, We've Got a War to Pay For.
Dun, dun, dun. And I'm Brandon. Welcome to the podcast. So you might be familiar with taxes. I feel like a lot of people are familiar with taxes.
We all pay taxes. If you're in America, you pay taxes in some way, shape, or form.
Yep, there's income taxes, sales taxes, property taxes, excise taxes, not exercise taxes, excise taxes for importing and exporting. Hopefully they're not going to put exercise taxes now that I said it. Payroll taxes if you're an employer, and the list goes on and on. We even have here in Chicago bottled water tax, and I think they used to have, what was it?
It was a pop tax.
There was a pop tax, which was soda pop, and there was a tax on plastic bags.
Yeah.
We just had that, and then it got taken away or something. I don't know. Anyway, lots and lots and lots of taxes.
And of all of these different kinds of taxes, today we're going to focus on income taxes. The taxes that you pay on your salary, your wages, the paycheck that you get.
So you might think that Grandma had a lower tax rate because she was able to save for retirement. She was able to buy that house. She was able to do a lot of things. But the reality was Grandma's income tax rate was much higher than ours now. For any income up to $38,000, we pay a 12% income tax. To compare apples to apples, let's take $20,000 annual income as an example. Today, you'd pay the 12%. Back in 1950, the tax rate for that $20,000 was 34.58%. In 1960, it was 38%. That's a pretty big difference between 38% and 12%.
Yep. The theory goes that in the 1980s, politicians realized that they could win elections by promising to lower taxes. That's what Reagan did. Part of the theory of as to why he got elected is because he was promising to lower taxes. Now, I was born while Reagan was president, so I don't remember that myself in particular. I vaguely remember when the first President Bush, I was kind of too young, but I vaguely remember them hearkening back to when he was first running and his key phrase that came up that time, read my lips, no new taxes. I had to research it that actually he said that first in 1988, which I would not remember. But in the 90s when he was running for re-election, that's when I remember people talking about it more. I was old enough to kind of remember some things by that point. But I was really too young to know what it meant. Read my lips, no new taxes. And I think the only reason I remember it is because my niece, my sister's daughter, she had this bib that someone got her for when she would eat food. And that bib read, read my lips, no more spinach. Now, I love spinach, but I thought it was totally hilarious, this bib and this play on taxes, read my lips, no new taxes versus read my lips, no more spinach, and how a kid would think about the same kind of like they don't care about taxes, but we don't want spinach, and kind of equating taxes and spinach for most people. Now, I love spinach, but most people don't.
Well, and I just think with that whole idea of taxes and lowering taxes, that's how, again, elections were won. And we don't want to pay more than we'd rather not pay all those taxes if we don't have to. And so to win those elections and do all that, I could see why it picked up steam in the 80s and 90s and even now.
I mean, you're a little older than me. What do you remember from when you were a kid and this season, 1980s, early 90s, where lowering taxes was the popular thing?
I mean, I remember hearing the elections, and I guess, again, being a kid, I would hear basically that whole, not all the other stuff, but I would hear no new taxes or lower taxes. And the thing is, from my little mind at the time, I could understand no new taxes or lower taxes meant more money for us, which meant more ice cream or cookies or whatever, toys for me.
That's all you think about.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, of course, we don't want higher taxes. I don't want to give those guys money. I mean, whoever those guys are. I want that money for our family so that way we can go buy more toys or ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of ice cream.
I found it really interesting. I heard this interview recently of Vanessa Williamson.
Not Vanessa Williams, the musician.
Right. This is Vanessa Williamson, the scholar and researcher, and she was talking about her recent book.
Or Vanessa Williams is an actress, I think. Sorry.
Anyway, Vanessa Williamson.
Scholar.
Scholar, yeah. She was talking about her recent book, Read My Lips, Why Americans Are Proud to Pay Taxes. We'll put a link to it in the show notes. But she was talking about how many Americans see paying taxes as our patriotic duty. When she interviewed lots of us Americans, and she heard this reoccurring theme over and over again, that paying taxes is a patriotic duty. We want to pay our fair share, but not a penny more. That was how we felt about it. But I found it really interesting. Our strongest feelings about taxes, according to her research, was when we get really mad when we believe people are not paying their fair share of taxes and they're skirting the laws, especially when that's the rich people, that they're not paying their fair share, that they might even be paying less taxes than the average American because, they're skirting these laws. Even though they make more money, they pay less taxes, but we think they should pay the fair share just like we do.
Yeah, I don't think we're going into any of the political landscape now.
Yeah, we're just summarizing her research from what I remember from the interview I heard.
Grandma always said, eat your vegetables. She loved making home-cooked meals with healthy food and from-scratch desserts. Would you create a diet of fast food or cookie-cutter financial products that made you fat and bloated with fees? Or would you like wholesome, time-honored wealth strategies served with balance and trust? Get started with your healthy money planning by downloading Wholesome Wealth Recipes. Your Moolah cookbook is waiting for you at grandmaswealth.com.
So I'd love to know how Americans feel, though, about the Internal Revenue Service.
Yeah, we think paying taxes is patriotic, but how do we feel about the people that collect those taxes?
I mean, I think even in the Bible, people didn't like those guys.
Right.
So, for example, let me just give you this little thought thing. If you have 2 or more children and leave money in a tax-deferred 401k, when you pass away, the IRS might get the same or more than your children. The Internal Revenue Service is like that 3rd or 4th child that collects
a part of your wealth that you built.
So do you love the Internal Revenue Service as much as your children? I know I don't.
Or do you have that tax collector, that tax man at the Internal Revenue Service that's your BFF and you want to leave him some of your wealth or her some of your wealth when you pass away? I mean, it doesn't really go to them, but that kind of the idea of how to think about what it is, how you're setting things up for when you pass away and who the beneficiaries are and how the IRS can become one of those.
Yeah. So do you want to add the IRS as a beneficiary on your estate? Do you really want half or a third or whatever to go to that? I don't know. I don't.
Yeah. Estate taxes are a real thing for sure. And with tax deferred 401k, this was news to me that when I learned it, that when it passes on to your beneficiaries and they start to take that money out of that 401k, they pay the taxes on it as income tax. It's not part of your estate taxes in that way.
Oh, wow.
So it's something that's unavoidable. The Internal Revenue Service is going to get that tax from your tax deferred 401k one way or another. But here's the thing that really gets me about income taxes.
And not that other stuff wasn't enough. There's more.
The pile on. With the exception of a short-lived income tax to pay for the Civil War, America didn't have any income tax until 1913. We'll have a graph in the notes.
It's a little over 100 years old.
Right, 105 years old, the income tax in the United States. We'll have a graph in the show notes to show you how the income tax has changed. But essentially, the tax rates increased during and after World War I and World War II. And then they remained high during the 50s, 60s, and 70s. We were, in the midst of Korean War, Vietnam War, those kind of things during that time. And then, like we talked about before, they were reduced during the Reagan administration during the 80s. But if you look at the entire last 105 years of income tax rates in the United States, we are at historically historically low tax rates.
Yeah, I think really, really low.
Really low, yeah. But yet, just like Grandma, we have a war to pay for. We have this war on terror, Afghanistan, Iraq. That bill is coming due. And, just like Grandma had to pay for those other wars during the 40s, 50s, and 60s and into the 70s. And then also, unlike Grandma, we also have a huge population about to take Social Security and Medicare. The money to pay for all of this has to come from somewhere. Where is it going to come from? There's a few ideas. Raising taxes is toward the top of that list. Another one is changing the laws related to tax-deferred plans like 401ks and IRAs. Politicians can get pretty creative in how to balance the budget. There'll probably be lots of fights about it. Who knows what's really going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of scary, looking at some of the debt, looking at Social Security, looking at all of those ideas, and thinking, okay, where is that going to come from?
Yeah, I think you've got some numbers for us about the debt.
So let's consider this. The national debt is $19.19 trillion. 19.19 trillion with a T. The total U.S. retirement assets hit $24.9 trillion in 2018. Again, $24.9 trillion. So if the U.S. government wanted to seriously balance a budget or pay off some of the national debt, where do you think they might go? They might look at those numbers and say they're very similar. We could maybe take from there.
So all of this is purely speculation. We do know one thing is fairly certain. Taxes are highly likely to go up in 2025 when the current tax reform is done. So when they passed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, we were pretty much told that taxes will go up in 2025, that they were cutting taxes temporarily to allow some people to move some money around, do some different things, and then taxes would go up in 2025. So if you'd like to see how you could make some changes with your money over the next few years until 2025 and spend and save accordingly, knowing that taxes are most certainly going to go up then, we'd love to talk with you, strategize some ways without being salesy or anything like that. All you have to do is go to grandmaswealthwisdom.com and click on request a meeting and schedule just an intro call with us, 15 minutes. We'll see how we can help you and we'll go from there. We'll look forward to talking to you and helping you develop that plan.
So don't be surprised in 2025 if you've heard it here and taxes do go up. Don't come to us saying, "Oh, taxes are up. I'm surprised by that."
Yeah.
Don't be.
You have a clear countdown.
You've been warned.
Yeah, to do something about it, to make some changes, to create your plans, do something different, knowing that you've got this countdown to 2025.
So the long and short of it is that the Internal Revenue Service wants your money. It actually needs your money. I mean, we need it for all the things of what's going on around us. Factoring in taxes when making your financial plans is super important. If you think income tax rates are going up in the future, you'll plan differently than if you think they'll be lower or the same. If you believe the tax laws around 401ks and IRAs will change, you might use them differently. The truth is that none of us knows what the future holds. But in the famous words of Benjamin Franklin, in this world, nothing can be said to be certain except death and taxes.
And he said that before he wrote the United States Constitution. This was sort of pre-United States Constitution that we know the certainty of death and taxes.
They knew they needed some money somewhere.
Yep.
So spend and save accordingly.
That's what Grandma would say. Taxes are certain. Make your spending plans and your saving plans accordingly, which is a good segue to our next podcast episode about leaving a legacy for future generations. Poor people plan for Saturday night. Rich people plan for 3 generations. Grandma prefers the latter.
So until next time, keep building your wealth simply and sustainably for your own future and the future of your grandchildren's generation. The topics presented in this podcast are for general information only and not for the purpose of providing legal, accounting, or investment advice. On such matters, please consult a professional who knows your specific situation.